Can you meet at 9:30?
I can. Yeah, she did get to me.
Joe's good too.
Okay, she did get to me. I know Maria had been in the habit of asking if any of the other board members had anything to share during the chair's report, like in the past. But I'd like to mention a couple of educators today, if unless you think we don't have time. Llewellyn. Were you laughing at me? Because I was trying.
I was. That was funny.
That's all right. I try to make sure that the legislators probably don't know how to use education words too. But I think it's helpful to have Johnny, who's been a legislator.
Oh, no, that's not what I was laughing at. I was laughing at your comment of all the people are probably dead. That's right.
Oh.
No, I wasn't laughing at you.
When I said.
I was telling Susan, I just asked that question last week. Because one of my boys that I'm going to
Yeah. Are y'all working with them on the implementation of the marijuana?
Yeah, we're trying to get
I couldn't believe that they just shut this down. Well, I can't. I don't want them to smoke it, and I also don't want it in candy and gummy bears.
Well,
There was a kid in Colorado that went out there on spring break and died.
That's
And I have a relative who has a teenager. She's a distant relative. She lives in California. She gets me good gummy bears, marijuana and gummy bears, and he didn't even know.
All right, we will come to order. And first off, I see Ivy Pfeffer back there, and Ivy Pfeffer is now Dr. Ivy Pfeffer. And congratulations. Wearing my other hat, I sat on her dissertation committee, and she did a great job. So congratulations to her.
A dissertation that will be helpful for us.
In her own work as well.
Yes.
So we are now to the public comment period of our meeting, and Representative Murdoch and former Senator Llewellyn are here, and they had requested time with us in a timely manner, and so they are, I think Representative Murdoch will introduce things. We do have other individuals from Lee County who are here as well. So I think we in essence now have this topic. Our goal for public comments is to limit things to 3 minutes, but we're not going to be resolute about that. So we'll let you take it away, Representative Murdoch.
Thank you, Chairman Barth, and to the State Board. First of all, it is an honor to have an opportunity to come before you. Again, I've had a chance to come see you a couple of times, and it's always been eventful, but it's always been fair. And I appreciate this opportunity to see friendly faces that I see from time to time across the state as we do the work on my other job. I would be remiss if I did not thank the AD staff. Commissioner Key has been wonderful. Office of Intensive Support, led by Mr. Tolbert, Ms. Streeter, others, Dr. Weil, Mr. Harvey. I mean, the names go on and on for the help that they have provided for Lee County during the time, in the last 3 years, I'll say, or so, that we have been trying to make you proud for giving us an opportunity to perform as an independent district. Also, first of all, as you helped us, again, with the people that I mentioned, we are so thankful that you gave us an opportunity to do that. Obviously, I'm in a peculiar position because as the representative for this district, I have the pleasure of my wife being the superintendent of this district. That's a unique situation that we are in. We are thankful, we are humbled to serve our community in the way that we have, but sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult. And in the environment that we live in, sometimes it makes it more difficult. But we are right for the challenge. We have not skirted our responsibility to the state of Arkansas, to Lee County, the district that I serve, and we've tried to be honorable in our dealings, in our doings. I come before you today to allow the community, citizens that have asked me, and the commissioner probably can attest to this, has been going on for a long time, asking me to summon this type of gathering, if you will, or attend your meeting to present what the community has to say on some issues, some very important issues. We have tried with the help to prevent this from happening, from being here in this manner, but we come in this manner humbly and again with regard for the community that we serve, that I represent and that we serve. With that being said, I will present and allow presenters to speak to you on behalf of their thoughts, their input, and in their own way for the matters of the Lee County School District. Again, thank you for this opportunity. At the end, I may be available, if so, for questions and a closing comment possibly at the end. We'll see how it flows.
Right.
Are there any questions before we start?
Anyone? All right. Thank you, Representative.
Senator Llewellyn.
Great. Thank you, Senator.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner. I wish I could say that I take great pleasure in being here, but on behalf of the fact of the Lee County School District, our children, administration and staff, and the fact that for 2 decades I've spent 20 years doing school litigation, okay, from Lakeview to Deer Mount, Judah. As you're aware that several years ago, the State Department was forced to place Lee County School District under supervision because of academic and fiscal distress. I guess when that occurred, we didn't see it as being something we wanted, but after looking back, it did put our district pretty much in the right direction. Well, we have accomplished something I think very few districts accomplished over this period when they get placed in that situation. We have turned our things around. But because of the staff, that turnaround was because of the staff and the leadership that we had. It wasn't because we had a board, because there was no board. Now we have our own board. They've been serving about 2 years. And in those 2 years, we have seen nothing but bickering. We've seen non-communication, irrational decisions, 11:30 at night board meetings, and seen very little be accomplished. Our administration can't recommend hiring because the board refuses to accept recommendations. On many occasions, I have said to them, look, you only have one employee, that's the superintendent. Everybody else works for the superintendent, so you can't micromanage what she's to do. If she hires someone who fails, that's on her. You know, you deal with it. But as of this month, we're now on accreditation problems. Why? Because we could not get the board to even accept a recommendation to fill a counseling position in the manner in which she saw fit. This has been nothing but discord. And our community is pretty much tired of it. I have raised these issues with the department in the last few months. And even when we were assigned monitors from the department, our board couldn't be civil in front of the monitors. You know, you would think that if you knew the bosses were here, you'd wait till they leave before you act up again. They cared less whether or not ADE was sitting there watching. They didn't care whether or not the department has constantly written letters telling them these are the things you need to do. As far as this board is concerned, it goes in the trash. They don't care whatsoever. Now, we have, asked the department. Well, I tried to stay out of it, but there were two things that happened in the recent months that made me feel that I owed more to this community than that. First of all, the board, ADE, had signed a 2-year contract with our superintendent. That superintendent worked hard to get things in order, led the staff. So, but I took the position that, well, the contract period is up in June. It's up to the board to decide who they're going to hire superintendent. And I'm not going to get involved based upon that fact of that contract. I said, it'll speak for itself. There'll be a search committee, and I hope that they will do the right thing. Well, that didn't cause me to move. What did cause me to move was at the other last meeting, when a recommendation was made to hire an employee. The board goes into recess, comes back, no explanation, and says we're going to vote 4-3 and fire the superintendent. And at that point in time, I felt it necessary to do something. So, as you may or may not be aware, I filed a petition for a restraining order against the board. I took it to the judge, and the judge read the facts, and he entered his order. And we had several school board members who even supported the judge entering a restraining order. And he found it, and he based it as I had said. Why do you interfere with the continuity of an operating school district 2 months before school is out? It has no rational basis. Explain to me what's the rationale behind your decision to say you want to fire a superintendent whose contract is up in June and school is going to be out 1st of June. There's no explanation for it. The judge entered an order restraining them, told them leave this alone, I'll review it, but I am equally concerned that what you're doing is not rational, and it threatens the continuity of the education system in Lee County. I can provide a copy of that order from the judge if you have not been provided one that you can look at. This was filed on February 28th. And that is what made me feel there has to be something done. Now, we have continued to do it, but I felt enough was enough. We are in a situation now that we're ending our school year. I have asked the board, what's the problem? How is it that you can say that you're making a decision on the superintendent who you've never given an evaluation to since the day you started? Our superintendent has never had a written evaluation performed whatsoever. Show me where she scored 3 out of 5, or 2 out of 5, or 0 out of 5. Give the community some rationale for what's going on. Show us where you evaluated her on performance, on supervision, and where she failed those based upon your standards. They won't do an evaluation. I ask still, what's going on? Why can't you answer even though she answers to you, the board answers to the community? Based upon that, they wanted to know why. Well, in 3 days, in a 3-day period, I said to them, we're going to ask that you guys be put off the board if you don't do what you want to do. I'm not the only one. In 72 hours, another 200 citizens signed the same petition saying, we want you going too. That was in 72 hours. So we are tired of it. Okay. Those are all voters. And probably if you give me 72 hours, I can get another 200 of them. They're saying, no. I found in practicing law and doing this, there's irony in everything that we do. How is it that you'd say that this superintendent is not competent? How can you say she can't do a job? She's not doing it. Look at where we are now. Look at where we were before you got here. And, you know, what's the excuse for that? The real irony is, I don't know if y'all received the letter yet from Great Rivers Educational Cooperative that serves our area, but dated the 7th, and the question is, where is the rational thinking for firing a superintendent who 3 days ago was nominated as Superintendent of the Year by the Great Rivers concern? I don't see that. You know, all of her peers feels that she is a competent superintendent. Our school district is running fine. This is not just about her. But everybody else, and I guess the old saying is you're a king in everybody's house but your own. No, everybody, okay, says this. We've done a remarkable job, and I'm hoping that recommendation is going to be taken seriously, because our school district had its problems, but now we're on the way to recovery. You have some administrative authorities. And I guess I should address what the issues are, what the remedies should be. I think our community is ready to vote a board. I think if this board is removed, our community will hold an election and we'll vote the board. And that board, and we're not voting, we don't want to vote a board to say that we're going to hire anybody for superintendent. But I think that we would do exactly like everybody else. We open the door, post the job, do a search, and let that board, who has some rational thinking, hopefully, make a decision on the future of our school district. It may not be our superintendent. It may not be who we choose it to be. We may end up getting the same board reelected, but that will be the will of the people. But right now, I don't think the will and the concerns of our school district are being addressed properly and in a rational basis. If you chose to speak to the monitors, they will confirm everything I've said. It is just sheer pandemonium at times with the school board, and they have not taken the advice of this district. So that's all I have to say, because I know I'm cognizant of time, and I believe a few others want to say something. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any questions before we continue with public comment? All right. So I have two names, but I think there may be, I see Ms. Freno going out to see if there are more names that have signed up. The first names I have are Angela Moore and then Michelle Branch. And so Ms. Moore first. Is she present, Ms. Moore? And if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, that would be very much appreciated. Commissioner?
And yes, Mr. Chairman. Any member who wants copies of any of the documents, Teal has come down and can make copies for you to have. So what would you like? Would you like copies of the court order or the petition? Nothing. Okay.
I don't need any copies, but at some point, will you advise us in terms of our response or?
Well, yeah, I've asked Ms. Freno to be prepared to talk about that, but we also have staff on hand to talk about the department's response to some of these issues that have been brought to our attention. So yes, absolutely, we'll be ready to do that.
And if you could just state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Angela Moore. I'm the finance coordinator for Lee County School District. And I will be very brief because my nerves will not allow me to go any longer. I'd like to speak to you on, about concerns of the physical integrity of the Lee County School District. In a recent letter to the commissioner, I explained that the district has made vast improvements and that we could possibly be recommended for removal of fiscal distress. In fact, Cynthia Smith from the ADE Fiscal Support Services mailed a letter dated February 21st stating that we could petition the state board on today to be removed. I do have a copy of that letter. And also, on February 23rd, we received another letter from Cynthia Smith stating that due to the actions of our school board and the employment status of our superintendent, the ADE Fiscal Support Services will delay the petition to remove the district due to recent and possibility of negative impact on the fiscal integrity of the district. In recent months, our school board has made several decisions that has caused individuals to contact legal representation. I've been in constant contact with Cynthia Smith and her staff and her team to let her know of any actions that have taken place during the school board meetings. I've expressed my concerns. We have had positive growth. In fact, right now we have a balance of $2.8 million, which is considerably an improvement from where we have been. We've been told that the district hasn't looked this good fiscally in the last 10 years. So with that being said, the district just cannot afford any legal litigations that could be very costly. I know of 3 individuals who may and have contacted legal representation because of things that have taken place in our school board meetings. Do you have any questions for me, or do you need me to elaborate on any of those situations?
And your title again is?
Financial coordinator.
Financial coordinator.
And also, would you like? This is the copy of the letters that we received from.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions? Okay. All right. Yeah. Ms. Moore?
Ms. Moore.
We do have a question for you.
Can you elaborate on what was going on in the meeting that someone felt like they needed legal representation?
Yes, in one incident, we had 2 individuals approach the school board and said that they needed to receive their, I want to get the right name of it, the incentive bonus. Our teachers receive a high priority incentive bonus, and these individuals were not qualified at the time. The ADE said that they were not qualified, but the board said, yeah, they can get it. So even after we did the debt request, per their request, Fiscal Support Services said no. So at this time, we're in limbo, not paying them, even though the school board has told these individuals that they would be paid. That's one incident. Yeah. Another incident, we had some individuals that have been asked to pay back stipends, that's actually part of their salaries. We had an audit exception because those stipends weren't listed on our salary schedule, so they felt that those individuals need to pay that money back. One individual, it's close to $8,000 that they're wanting him to pay back, excuse me, and he has contacted legal representation. Even though audit said that was not part of the finding, they weren't asking anyone to pay that money back. And one other one I listed was, we had several board members continually asked questions and made statements about a legal litigation that we had going, and there was a stay order. And even though we continued to tell them we can't discuss it, there's an open stay order, their response was, we're going to ask questions because we have questions. So they ignored the stay order.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Branch. Ms. Freno, did we have any other? Okay. So, Ms. Branch, please state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Branch. And again, I'll be conscious of the time as well. A little nervous, but at any rate, I'm here. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity to come before you and speak to you on behalf of our students in Lee County School District. I thought I'd be here someday probably presenting for some type of recognition, or we receive some type of Green Apple Award or some type of blue ribbon or something like that, but at any rate, that is not the case today. Okay. I'm an employee of the Lee County School District and a parent. I have 3 children that attend school in Lee County, and I'm glad that I'm here as an advocate for not just my children, but for the children of Lee County School District. I don't stand here pretending that I have all the solutions or that I know answers to all the problems in our school district, but I do understand what's important and what should be important to anyone who's in the education arena or in the education field. And that is our children. And if that's not the case, then they are in the wrong profession, and I understand that. Being in the education arena and having a degree in education is not enough. You surely have to have the children in your heart. That being understood, every action taken by any person that is in leadership must govern their thoughts to the hearts of the students. Of course, not to the detriment of the school district, but to the building up of each student so that they will have a sense of self-worth and also become lifelong learners. I have witnessed Superintendent Murdock to be a person that has the students in her heart. Henceforth, the endeavors that she wills for the school district has been cut short because of what I see and believe are hidden agendas. You asked me, how do I know this? And I'm so glad you asked that question because I'd like to elaborate on that. A well-known statement is, actions speak louder than words. So let me explain. I have sat in board meetings after board meetings and watched particular board members be mean and publicly disrespectful to the superintendent. I believe that there has not been a meeting that has gone on and that doesn't happen. And you would really be really amazed by some of the things that happen in these board meetings. I have 2 children that attend the high school, and they have been without a counselor the whole year simply because the board doesn't think it's necessary, even when the superintendent puts forth the person that applied for the job and was, by her belief, fit for the job. The board voted no. For whatever reason it may have been, still my children and the students of Lee High School are without a counselor. Not one time, but several times, then she went on and on and on asking for the counselor. But anyway, again, I'll say it hurt our children. And not only our children, it violated standards. They simply say, well, we'll take a hit. And when I heard that statement made, then that let me know that you don't have children in your best interest. Superintendent Murdock tried to hire 2 school improvement specialists. And I try not to be so emotional, but it is 21 years, and I'm very passionate about what I do. And I'm very serious about what I do. And when I see children who can't do anything, who can't say anything, I get a little emotional. I'm getting myself together here though, but at any rate, and I wrote my notes out, and I was going to try to stick to that, but let me just go ahead and say what I need to say. There have been several instances that superintendent has tried to hire a school improvement specialist. Well, when she goes to make the recommendation, then the board decides that this is not the person we want, or these are not the people we want. Can you go get some more people for us? And I also attend job fairs along with Ms. Murdoch. And it is so hard, so very hard to get teachers to come to the Delta. It's so hard to get teachers to come to Lee County School District. And those that are there, we want to try to keep them. But with all of the negativity going on with the school board, who wants to come to Lee County? I've been there for 21 years, and this is one of the things that I told my child when she started kindergarten this year. I said, everything is going to be okay because mommy is going to be in the building with you. I'll be over just a haul over, and if anything goes on, I'll be over there to check on you. Well, I feel that that's not the case anymore. If something goes on now, there's nothing I can do. We have a school board that is in authority, that is in leadership to govern and lead a school district. We have 811 students, 811. And we have individuals on a school board who, for whatever apparent reasons, decide that the things that the superintendent that was hired to do a job, those recommendations that she brings forth is not important. And we always tell our principals, we always tell our teachers, look at the data, and whatever the data says, then you use that data to make decisions. Well, we need a counselor. You didn't even have to look at data to figure that out. We need a counselor. That's standard. The children, some of the basketball boys went before the board to ask for a basketball coach. The children are asking now because the superintendent's recommendations was knocked down, but the children came, asked for a basketball coach. And guess what? They said, thank you. That's what they were given, thank you. And so there was an individual, he happens to be my husband. He just happens to be my husband. He decided that, well, if I'm there and I can coach, I'll be the coach. And so he coached basketball for junior high basketball and for senior high. And may I add that he was still not voted as the coach, but they decided to make him the interim coach. Didn't matter. They decided to cut his stipend in half. That didn't matter either. I didn't even know that you could do that, but anyway, at any rate, that happened. But that was not important. What was important were those children. And those boys, the senior boys, they actually went to state this year. And I think they hadn't been to state, the boys and girls, since 1983. But they went to state this year. We didn't win. We lost in the first round, but we made it there. We made it there. And so those children are able to see. My 3 minutes is probably up, and I'm gonna stop right now because I could go on and on, but I'm gonna stop right now, and I'm gonna ask, are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Branch.
Okay.
Are there questions?
At this time, I think that we have another individual that wants to come.
We do.
Mr. Iris Williams.
Iris Williams is the final person I have signed up. And so, Mr. Williams.
I'm not as eloquent as some of the other speakers. If you don't mind, I'll kind of turn that side a little bit.
You do need to use my.
Oh, okay. If I start screaming, maybe I need to get back.
So,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
3 minutes, Mr. Williams.
Okay, and I can cut mine to 3, actually. I'm here to try and ask you, please, sirs, and please, ma'am, help us get out of the twilight zone. Somehow, I don't know when, and, well, yeah, actually, I do know when. It seems as if when the state left, seemingly overnight, we slipped into the twilight zone. Seemingly everything going real smooth. And seemingly that, sounds like a horror movie, I know. It seems like that when the state left, the next morning we all woke up in Rod Serlin's land. And seemingly we are stuck there and can't find our way out. So that's why I'm here today to ask this committee or whomever, please help us get out of the twilight zone. And this lady, Mrs. Branch hit it right on the head. in all the years, I've been there 40 plus years in education there. In all the years, this is the first superintendent that I know that every student can call her by name. First one. Every student know her when they see her. First one. The first one that I know of that have had me on the carpet, now mind you, I taught her in the 9th grade, had me on the carpet because of her kids. I'm ex-Marine, ex-Vietnam veteran, and she, because I probably wasn't doing something that I should have done with the STRIVE program. I went to STRIVE program in Lee County. And let me say this before my 3 minutes run out. If it was not for Mrs. Murdoch, the STRIVE program would probably be held outdoors. Every time we ran into a snag, Mrs. Murdoch was there with a net to bail us out. And we're talking about kids from 4 different counties, 8 different school districts. So she wasn't just concerned about the kids in Lee County. She was concerned about all of the kids coming to Lee County, not just Lee County kids. And I don't know where we will ever find a person who is kid-friendly, who is a person who cares about education and always have. That the first thing she told me, she said, I want to be a school teacher. When she was in my classroom, there she sat here already. And I can understand how a board can come to a board meeting and come with their claws and their tentacles already out. And I'm so ashamed. I'm going to sit down when I say this. I'm so ashamed because I always pray. I say, God, please don't let any kids come, because I don't want the kids to see this. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for me, and I'm 67 years old, and I know how I see the kids back there shaking their heads and looking at me, and I look back at them and say, I can't do nothing. I can't do anything. I can't help her. But I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say this. If you can, if you will, please help us get out of the twilight zone.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Representative Murdoch, did you want to say anything in closing?
Yeah, very briefly, I just want to say thank you for allowing us to come before you, and that you see the seriousness of it. And I think that the ADE staff that has been in our district, and along with the commissioner, I would like to also, as you would, hear from them. I would like to hear from them publicly.
Great. Thank you very much. Commissioner?
Just to set the stage, so you all know, in September of 2015, the Lee County District elected a board. In October of 2015, Mr. Talbert and I went and visited at the first board meeting. It was actually their board training. And I know I expressed our hope and desire that because of the action of this board having released them from state control, that they would stay on a path of improvement, moving forward and doing positive things for their students. Mr. Tolbert is kind of a good cop, bad cop. I think Mr. Tolbert spoke to him in even more stern terms about the expectations. And you know, we've continued a close relationship with Ms. Murdoch and with her team, and trying to make sure that the momentum did continue. We have folks here that can answer any questions you may have about their progress on fiscal distress. I will confirm what was said, that we did send a letter letting them know that they had met their fiscal distress plan. We were ready to release them. That process would have required them to come and petition you all to ask for that designation to be removed. Upon learning of the action, we sent another letter to put everything on hold until the things at the local level could be resolved. We have also recently, when the reports were made known to us about potential violations of standards, Mr. Morris and the standards unit and others from various divisions in the agency went over there at my direction to perform a standards monitoring visit. And we can, Mr. Morris is here and can give you an update on the status of that and where that is. So Ms. Chairman, at the pleasure of the board, any of our team can respond to whatever y'all would like to hear.
Okay. I think I'm going to just go around and see what questions, and maybe it could be in several different pieces here.
OI, Office of Intensive Support is here. I think Mr. Martello is here. Yeah, he's here. He has been working with them along with our fiscal support unit in-house on the fiscal aspects. Ms. Smith is at another district today, but Mr. Martello is here, can answer questions on that.
And there could be legal questions as well.
And as I said, Ms. Freno is also available to address any legal issues or legal questions.
Okay. Why don't I start with Ms. Zook, and we'll just go around. Yeah.
Okay, I think as a way of background, when this district came before the board, I guess it was in 13 or 14, I can't remember which, the Academic Distress Committee recommended that that the State Board intervene. And at that time, we were asked to vote on three different things, whether to intervene. One was whether or not to dismiss the board, and one was whether or not to keep the superintendent. We did vote to intervene. We did vote to do away with the board. We voted to keep the superintendent. So that sort of is a way of background for the board. My question to those who came, and I don't know who can answer this, was it a split vote in the when the board voted to, okay, thanks. 4 to 3. And was the vote taken in public?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Okay. And I know that Lee County's been selected to be what's called a forward community.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me at this point what they are doing to help you all?
Well, right now, this board is pretty much kind of in its infancy.
Right.
They only been there 18 months. So a lot is not interacting. A lot of things are not interacting. They have not chosen to go through a learning process to know what it's like to administer a school district. And so I think we're in a stagnant position now. I don't know what your recommendations will be, but I will say this: if just a little common sense with them would go a long way, and that's what we haven't been able to do. There's just no communication.
Okay, and do you know whether or not the board members went to all of the required board training?
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah.
We don't know.
This is not about the training. It's just plain stuff.
It's about the listening. I understand your point. I just wanted to know if they'd been to the training.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have any further questions right now.
Okay. Thanks, Mr.
I guess mine is a legal question.
Yes, ma'am.
Legal for our legal or legal for Mr. Llewellyn? Because he's an attorney as well, so.
Well, I guess our legal.
Okay. All right.
As far as what we do.
What can we do?
Or what
Yeah.
can we do?
Ms. Dean, if it's okay, can we save that question for the end? Because there are several things at work. There are standards issues, and there are fiscal distress issues, and the remedies available are somewhat different in each case.
Right.
So if we could capture all of the questions on those other pieces, we could come back to that one.
Great. Anything else, Ms. Dean?
No, she asked the other one.
Okay. All right. Ms. Newton?
I'd like someone from the department to speak on the standards violations. What specific standards violations did you find at the
Yeah, Ms. Barnes, Mr. Morris,
the review.
Mr. Harvey, any of the three of those, but whoever they choose.
Good afternoon. My name is Willie Morris. I'm the program manager for the standards unit. And Lee County had, we went at the commissioner's request on December the 6th to do a preliminary standards review visit. And some of the issues that came up, some were citations, some of them were probation. One being they had not published their annual report to the public by the November 15th deadline, and but they have since published that in the paper. It was published in the Courier Index on January the 25th of this year. And one of the other violations that was a probationary issue was not teaching all of the 38. It was 4 issues in the, teaching the 38, and because at the time we were there, we were not provided a master schedule to verify that all of the 38 was being taught or offered. And since then, we've received documentation from Lee County that cleared up 2 of the 4. One being that they had an AP math class that we couldn't verify on that day, but they sent documentation that they have a person teaching that AP math. And they also had a digital class that was in question. But since then, we've got verification that they had that was being taught through Virtual Arkansas. So the only 2 things that we haven't received verification on at this point is they had a half unit of drama that wasn't on their master schedule and a half unit of social studies that they were short on. And then on Standard 5 instruction, we had concerns about improper teacher-student ratios, and documentation we received from them verified that those are no longer issues, but we weren't able to verify that for the first semester, and we're still looking to get that straightened out. Then other issue was on graduation requirements. We looked at the transcripts, and also the counseling unit looked at transcripts in Lee County, and there were some concerns about some transcript irregularities for next year's seniors. And so they have time to get that corrected, but they hadn't at this point. Then the last thing we had was on personnel issues, and we got documentation that they sent us that said a lot of them was coding issues. One of them being that they had non-certified staff that had the wrong code. They had a 4-digit code when it should have been a 3-digit code for those non-certified staff. And the one that already been discussed by the Lee County staff is the fact that they did not have a counselor, which is required in standards. And that was verified on site and by the information that you've heard today.
On the credits, oh, excuse
I
me.
just wanted to be sure Ms. Newton got,
I have some more questions, but it'll be for other people, so let's go ahead with this.
yeah,
one.
let's finish up on the standards issue.
Okay, on the half units, were they offered and no one signed up for them, or were they not offered?
Well, that's still a question that we got to get confirmed. They sent us documentation of the first semester master schedule, and we couldn't verify that from the master schedule that was provided.
Okay.
And on the annual review, the publication of the annual report, is that a duty of the school board in law, or is that a duty of the superintendent?
That's a district responsibility. I'm not sure if the superintendent that publishes in the paper, but it's required by the district to publish it in the paper or circulation in that area.
Okay, great.
It may be helpful for the board to know, Mr. Morris, the timeline, because this preliminary visit was made, and then there have been follow-up communications. So we allow time for a district to remedy and to cure certain deficiencies. And you're in that process now of back and forth. Would you just kind of describe that timeline briefly?
Well, there are some things that has to be confirmed or corrected within 30 days after receipt of the report. And they've addressed some of those issues. There are some things that have to be corrected by the beginning of the next school year. And so they're working on correcting some of those things, and we'll continue to review things, documentation, and if we have to go back on site to confirm, we'll do that.
Ms. Newton?
Mr. Harvey?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Mr. Morris is eloquently explaining. We did have a timeline where we were on site, made the on-site visit. We provided a report back to them in January. From the date they received the report, which I believe it was January 23rd when they signed off on the receipt, they had 30 days to respond back to the information, to provide us documentation to explain what we saw when we were actually on site. It's not really a time to correct things, it's a time to correct what we actually witnessed. Because as you know, sometimes documentation may not be available at that specific moment. So it gives a 30-day window for response back. They did not respond within inside the 30-day window, but we did extend the window, so we're still working. As of this morning, they were still working on issues to make sure that we could have the correct information for the board for the presentation. As Mr. Morris explained, some of the items have a correction window when you look at our standards for accreditation, but actually they become a probationary violation. And you have a window of correction that if they're not corrected by the end of that window, then they can be brought before the board for actual loss of accreditation to the district. So it is a probationary issue. We look for a window, which would have been the 30 days, to help us understand that there was an error or provide additional documentation to clarify. After that window, it would become a probationary issue, and we would potentially bring those to the board for issuing, putting them on probation or giving them a cite for whatever issue there. If they're not corrected within inside that correction window, then it would be bringing back to the board for potential loss of accreditation to the school district or the school.
Any other standards for accreditation questions?
Just a follow-up with Mr. Harvey. The problems that the standards review saw, were they problems that you saw that resulted from maybe organization of the administration or higher? Where do you think the source of this many problems was coming from, I guess?
That is something we really did not delve into to try to determine the actual cause. Some of them could be because, as has been explained here, not being allowed to hire someone. Others could have been coding issues within inside. So basically what we do is just a determination of what are the facts at the moment and not try to delve into the actual causes. Now, after the fact, we will come back and provide technical assistance to ensure that those don't happen again, because one of the things that we want to ensure that if it's been corrected or documentation that it's corrected, we do not want it to appear again the next year, so it becomes a 2-year probationary violation, which then requires us to bring it to the board for a action within inside.
Let me, I guess, say it this way. Would these problems be the result of not having a counselor on staff?
Some of these problems definitely would have resulted from, especially when you're looking at transcript issues and potential areas there, since counselors typically do work intensively ensuring that students do have the right courses.
Back up, if you would. Johnny, maybe it'll help me figure this out. They weren't on academic distress. They just entered the system, if you will, on fiscal distress.
No. They had both.
They had both.
They had both.
Okay.
The academic distress was just, I believe, 1 year, and the year after they were placed in academic distress, their test scores rose to the level that they went beyond the 49.5%. I think it was just, they exceeded that a little bit. Okay, yeah.
So here we go out 6 decimal places now.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, but at that point, then, they were not in state control because of fiscal distress. That was not part of the classification, just the academic distress.
Okay. And I'm looking at an audit. I think this is audit of maybe 2015. And it shows that they went under fiscal distress. Was it May of 14? Does that sound about right?
While they were in state takeover, I believe.
Okay.
It went under fiscal distress for the...
Yeah, Mr. Martello can speak to the timing and everything of fiscal distress.
The
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Jeff.
Jeff Martello, Office of Intensive Support. I'm director of finance for the Office of Intensive Support. So it was either April or May, off the top of my head, of 14. They were identified for fiscal distress identification for declining legal fund balance. And quite honestly,
That was the only,
that was the only identifying
That was only triggered at
factor.
that point.
It was not for audit findings.
because
It was for
the
legal.
2014 audit is horrible. I mean, 15 looked better, but 14 just is a disaster.
The identifying mark was declining legal fund balance. And when you put it in perspective, we just barely touched on it. Prior to the identification of fiscal distress, the district the district finances were very bleak, to be completely honest. When we came in April we had to close out the fiscal year, and we had to get in there and do some things. And to Ms. Murdoch's credit and the business office with Ms. Moore and Ms. Freeman, very tough choices had to be made, especially from the superintendent's role. She had to look a lot of people in the eyes and make some tough decisions. The RIF process happened. It basically had to happen overnight for the fiscal integrity to exist. And so they went from roughly, I think it was $300,000 at the end of that fiscal year, 14, rose all the way up to 1.2. Right. That was unprecedented for that part of the state.
Not proper documentation. They didn't register deposits, and I mean, there was
Yeah.
some major deals.
And a lot of it was proper use of funding sources, but a lot of tough choices. But in addition to that, at the end of 15, they got themselves to a 1.2 legal fund balance, and that's what the department, the big thing that they look at, and where they were at 300, and then the next year, so that was a growth of roughly 900,000. And then the next year, they had another growth of 800,000. And we're talking about a district that was at, roughly 300,000 at the end of fiscal year 14. So some tremendous strides for any school district, much less than the Delta.
Do you know their legal fund balance now?
I can give you a preliminary, but again, for the record, this is a preliminary. They're projected to be roughly 1.5. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you're looking at, and they've set a precedent. We're going to set at 1.2, which they hadn't been that way for years, to set whatever that growth above legal fund balance they're going to put in the operating fund. Last year, like I said, it was 800,000. So very, very tough decisions. Now, with all that said, and I always say this, you still have to meet those academic demands. It's not all about the finances, but they've made some great strides up to this point.
Any other fiscal questions while he's up there? Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Anything else? No, I'm good. Okay. Mr. Black, anything? Ms. Chambers?
A couple of general
Yes.
questions. So the board that's currently in place, is that appointed or elected?
It was elected in September of 2015. And they have had an election since then, I believe, as part of the normal routine of board elections.
Because I know we're going to come back and talk about what is our responsibility or response, but clarity of the ask. I don't know if we're talking about an intervention, in terms of what is it that's being asked for, and then ultimately, then what are the choices that we have in response. But the superintendent right now, the contract is up in June, is that right?
Yes, her current superintendent's contract ends in June.
Okay, and the current at least consideration, if not the ask, is that there be an intervention. There's a stay right now, is that right, from a court perspective?
Yes. The injunction has been filed, and Senator Llewellyn may be able to, I don't know if the court has issued a schedule for briefs or anything like that. So.
No requests for hearings have been requested. As it stands, that was one of the major concerns, and you've heard your reports, is that there has to be continuity for the things that you see that are going on and the improvements. Why, these are the folks that are improving. If we fire our superintendent 3 weeks ago, how do we keep going? As you said, there were some major changes and decisions she had to make. Who do you bring in to start the next week to do what and pick up on what's going on here and everything that's happened? And again, who wants to come to the Delta? Yeah. So.
And Senator, the irony is, we hear so many pleas for return to local control. This is the first time I remember, at least in my short stay, this particular direction. But even if we were to continue with this superintendent in place through contract, there's still then this date with her contract where she could be replaced in June.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. But at the same token, the board has options. The board may suspend, this board may suspend that board and vote and re-enter into a contract themselves. But you can do that. You can say, we'll suspend you one day and then one day sign a new contract with the superintendent and let them go back to work. You have that option. You have the option of removing some. You have the option of removing all. What we're saying is we need to guarantee the continuity of things while we're on a roll and we're making this 1.2. Why fix something that's not broken right now that's actually really working? And you may suspend them, make a probationary thing, say something to say either y'all gonna get along, or if we come back, we're gonna do this. You have many options to do. But our concern, one of the major one, is we are in a crucial period right now, and we need to stay on board, online, on track, and we got the right people there that's doing it. We just don't have the right folks to help us, which is the board.
Any more general questions before we go to Ms. Farino for legal? I saw Ms. Newton and then Ms. Hook.
I heard someone say a while ago that some of the ADE staff had been at some of the board meetings. Who went and what was their role when they were there?
I think Mr. Talbert can speak to that. I know he has been in attendance at some of these. I think maybe Dr. Wild and School Improvement at different times have attended their board meetings, but I don't know the exact schedule, but Mr. Talbert would be happy to
First, let me go back to Andrew Talbot, Office of Intensive Support. First, let me go back to the statement Ms. Zook made. Shortly after we were assigned to Lee County as a unit, they were placed under state authority. And I was asking the board meeting, if you dismiss the board, should we keep the superintendent? And I didn't hesitate. I said, yes. She's not part of the problem. She inherited those problems, and you need continuity. And as we stand today, that was the right decision. Then Mr. Key and I got a chance to go and talk to the board when they would return back to local control, and they were in their training. And I shared with them as a superintendent and also a previous board member, I can see both sides of the table. And I said, when a superintendent, I dealt with the board, and we had company issues and we had policy issues. And I said, those company issues are those things, the day-to-day operation of the board, that you let the superintendent do. The policy issues are those things where it's legal issues or anything dealing with policy. And I said, what you don't want is to get into the day-to-day operation of the board, of the school district, and get into doing the policy, the company things when you need to be dealing with company issues. And I use Walmart as an example, in that they have CEOs and they have managers of the stores out there. The principals manage the schools. The board doesn't get into that. They deal with the CEO. And so the first local board meeting that they had, I was there. And I was kind of set back at all of the questions that they asked that could have been asked aside, not there. When I talked with Ms. Murdoch, I said, here's what you do when you send out your board packet. You give them enough information for them to make informed decisions. And you give them numbers to call if they have any questions to ask. And I said, some want publicity and not resolution. So they asked a whole lot of questions to the point where I'm like, wow, is this really necessary? Then a simple issue was partnership resolution to be signed. And Ms. Murdoch did an excellent job explaining what that was, and they took an insurmountable amount of time dealing with that because it seemed as if they didn't trust what she was saying. And so I was sitting in the audience, I raised my hand, and I said, may I speak, please? I said, it's a simple thing. If you sign the partnership resolution, it does not commit you to anything other than putting your name in the pot to be considered. Then they talked for another 5-10 minutes, and then they finally signed that. But whenever things came up about finance or anything else, they ask, the board have a right to ask questions that they need clarifications on. But some was on the border of being just harassment to some extent. So given all the things that have been said, you know, I spoke to the faculty, I think it was 14-15 school year, when they had just been placed into state authority, and I said, the eyes of the state are looking at you. What are they going to see? I challenge you to try to do the right thing, get removed from this label. And they did that. Now the eyes of the state are looking at them because of the mismanagement and interference of the board. And anybody in their right mind, as a superintendent, is not going to go to a district where you have issues to deal with, and then you have people who are barriers to that progress. And I just, from the personal information and being in that district for those 2 years, a lot of work has been done, unprecedented work, and we need some continuity. The board can have a right to choose whoever they want to lead them, but they must allow them the autonomy to be able to run the district. And I think they're meddling in things that probably, I don't know of many people who can deal with that. I will say to Ms. Murdoch's defense, she's been always professional, because I'll tell you personally, I couldn't deal with it.
Yes, the contract that ends in June, was that a choice, Ms. Murdoch, that you made, or they just did not extend your contract?
While she's coming, I'll just say Dr. Wild is on his way to Dermont, so he's not here to answer to that question about other AD staff who went to board meetings.
Good afternoon, Willie Murdoch,
Good afternoon,
Superintendent of
Ms.
Lee
Murdoch.
County. I was state appointed, as you remember, Ms. Zook, by the board, and my contract ends on June 30th. They didn't extend it, which is fine. That's no problem. I want to make sure that the district is taken care of. However, a few days ago, I was terminated, which was a breach of my contract. However, we're still going to hang in there for the kids. That's what we do.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dean?
If they had renewed your contract, would you want to stay?
I've been asked that question so many times. With that board, probably not. We have to have the children's best interests at heart. I don't think at least 4 of those board members have the children's best interests at heart.
At least 4 do.
At least 3 do.
At least 3 do.
4 don't have
4
the
don't.
children's best interests at heart.
So if that board issue was remedied, then you would want to stay? Or, let me ask you.
I would consider it.
You would consider it?
I would
Okay.
consider it, because that's my home.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think, can we turn to Ms. Freno?
Yes, yeah, Ms. Freno could come and answer questions as to the role of the board in this type of situation.
I think we go back to Ms. Dean's initial question about what are the powers of the state board in a scenario like this.
That's a big question. There is no general power under the law to remove a school board. I mean, we're looking at 2 things here. We're looking at standards, violations, we're looking at fiscal distress. Currently, it's my understanding that that the school district has not been placed on notice that it is in probationary status as far as violating any standards. So they are not in probationary status.
Not an official status.
Okay.
Official status
typically comes by May 1 according to law. However, they did have a on-site monitoring that was ordered by the commissioner, and in all probability, they would have received a final notification had the exchange of information been received in the 30-day window, because at that point it would have been, okay, these cannot be corrected in this school year, so then they would have received a notification. They have not received a notification.
So if I may, under the law, the state board has several actions that it can take upon a school district after a school district has received notification that it is placed on probation for standards violations. The school district has the right to appeal, so there would not be anything you could do immediately. With that regard, there would have to be a notification. There would have to be an appeal period. The appeal would be have to be within 14 days of the notification, and then the state board would hear at its next meeting the possibility of what action, if any, it feels is appropriate to take. And the actions it feels are appropriate to take are set forth clearly in law at Section 615-207 of the Arkansas Code, and it's very broad, from requiring a school district to reorganize, removing a superintendent, removing a school board, requiring a school district to close down. I mean, there are various things that the state board could do at that point if an appeal was denied and the school district remained in probationary status. Now, they could do that. They do not have to take any of those steps, but those are steps that it could take. Now, so at this point, it's kind of a premature situation. The same is true with fiscal distress. Again, there comes to be a time when the state board does have, and the director does have, authority to take certain steps. Right now, it's my understanding that the fiscal distress, or our fiscal folks, are looking at the audit findings with regard to Lee County School District, and that's just something that they're considering right now. They've made no conclusions on those.
That's new audit, fine, from the most recent audit.
So since they didn't respond in the 30 days they were given to the Standards Committee, then had they done that and not corrected, they possibly could have been put on probation, but because they didn't, they're not on probation, even though the reason they're not is because they didn't respond in the correct amount of time.
And I'm looking at Albert Harvey to answer that question.
What we do at the window is to give, as you know, the correction. Now, the window is passed. We're working on it. There are some issues, as Ms. Barnes has stated, that cannot be cleared up for this academic year. They will be receiving notification that we are going to recommend that they be placed on probation. They'll have a chance to appeal, and then we'll bring it before the board the next scheduled board meeting.
So since they're on a stay by the judge, then it's possible, if he maintains that if the superintendent is willing to work with what has been described as a hostile board, then we might take action in May or June. Because right now they're on a stay. The judge has said you can't get rid of the superintendent.
That's my understanding. There's a temporary restraining order that the board cannot get rid of the superintendent at this point. Temporary restraining orders usually are temporary, and there has to be a hearing set, but as the commissioner brought out through questioning, there has not been any further date set for that. But my point is, at this point, as of today, Lee County's not on probationary status.
Right. So today, we can't act based on probation or fiscal. We can just listen to what they say, be aware the judge has said you can't do what you did, or at least temporarily. Mm-hmm. And so we've heard it, and after everything plays out, then we can make a decision based on whether they're on probation or not and whether they're in fiscal distress or not.
That is correct, Ms. Zook. That would be after notice and hearing. That's another very important point.
Right.
So everyone would have to have the opportunity to participate.
So we may be looking at May or June.
Sure.
June, okay.
Sure. Oh, I didn't say June. We could, a couple of months.
Yep.
Possibly.
Okay.
I may mention that restraining order, you don't know how long it's going to be there because the regular school board attorney, Mr. Daggett, has recused himself based on conflicts. And he is advised, I talked with him yesterday, and he said he has called the board members and the state school board association or whatever else, and the board's going to have to find them an attorney. So, because of the conflict with the regular attorney. So it may be in place for a while until they hire somebody.
Were you trying to get in? Okay. Ms. Hook?
I guess my conclusion is that we have heard you. There's nothing at this point we can do in statute or law, and but we have heard you, and I guess we'll have to consider it at a different time. And since it wasn't on the action agenda, this was just public comment for us to hear, take note of, have our notes, and we'll be ready at whatever point the ADE team comes back to us with a recommendation.
Although I think at that point, I think I heard Ms. Freno say, I mean, that would be a full hearing. Both sides would be heard. It would be a much more detailed
That is correct.
process.
There would have to be hearing. Go ahead.
But that scenario was with respect to probationary. I think the fiscal distress has another set, and I wanted to make sure that you are all understanding of the differences between the two, because there are different timelines and different things. So, Lori, could you talk about the fiscal distress aspect of it and with respect to the power of the board?
Yes, the fiscal distress law provides that the department may petition the state board at any time to take any action that's allowed by the law to, and this is a quote from the law, to secure and protect the best interests of educational resources of the state or to provide for the best interests of students in the school district. So, but again, that would be something that there would at least have to be some kind of there would have to be a hearing, notice and hearing on that as well. And then I guess the menu of options that the board would have to take, if it would be they're pretty close to the same as for the standards violations.
Ms. Chambers?
So just kind of checking the nuance here. So if, as it turns out, there's no fiscal distress and there's no violation or concern relative, they're not on probationary status, then is there still latitude that accrues to this board relative to taking any action going forward or not?
If there are no standard violations or if there is not an issue with fiscal integrity, there is no big, arguably there's no big overarching, there's no clear big overarching authority that is given to the board. Now, both the fiscal distress statute definitely does have a provision in it that says the state board may take any actions at any time, that are allowed by law that it wishes to take.
Because thank you.
To resolve the situation.
I think that's important for all the folks that have come here to spend time with us today and share these stories. I wanted them to hear kind of the spectrum of what is available to us depending on the outcome of the things we're talking about. But I wanted to thank them. We care about the superintendent, obviously. We care about this environment that you've described, which is worrisome in terms of the district, the board. But wanted to thank you all for coming to help us understand what the community's going through right now.
Ms. Newton?
Just one more question. You made a comment just a minute ago that the school board was going to have to find another lawyer, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Who will pay for that?
I have no, I just found out yesterday when I spoke with the school board attorney. I had made some overtures to him to try to meet with some of the board members. And he told me that he contacted the State School Board Association. He had a conflict and asked them what their advice is. He has advised, I guess, the board president that he has a conflict. This was just yesterday afternoon, so I don't know what the process. but I'm pretty sure that they're going to want to vote that the school board, that the school district pay for any attorney that they hire.
All right, that was my question, that the district would be if the district would be responsible for their lawyer fees, and how would that physically impact, I guess somebody from the department might answer that, how would that physically impact the future?
You got cheap lawyers and you got high lawyers.
I mean,
and it could physically impact them a little bit, or it could, or it's according to what law firm and who you're hiring and how far they're willing to go. But I think whether you tell them not to, they're going to go vote and say, well, we're going to pay the lawyer anyway. Okay. They'll tell the superintendent, write a check, and if you don't, you're insubordinate. So we'll visit that. I'll know more after I talk back with Mr. Daggett, and he tells me if and who they're going to hire. I don't know. This is I was just told this yesterday.
I guess, Ms. Freno, that statement that you read at the beginning of the physical distress, where if the board thought, I can't remember exactly how you
The
phrased it.
fiscal integrity?
Yes, if that was endangered, would that be a condition, that might trigger that, I guess?
I guess if there were exorbitant attorney's fees, it could. I mean, attorney's fees are just so squishy, as the senator pointed out. This might be something that you go into court, you have a hearing, it takes an hour, you're done, it's decided. This might be something where there's going to be discovery and filing an answer and doing other things. So it really would just be dependent upon the facts.
Commissioner's trying to get him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me just caution too that I think the issue of the local litigation is really for a point of information for us. We need to be cautious not to get too far over into that, because there are it gets murky, and state involvement in what is at this point a local issue is something I would caution us not to wade off into. Because you've got a superintendent, you've got a board, and that district could be on the hook for two attorneys. I don't know, but that's an issue that I don't think we want to jump off into. Learned gentlemen and ladies in the profession of Senator Llewellyn deal with that stuff on a daily basis. I'd rather leave that to them, but for our purposes, I think it's important just to know that is part of the context in the district at this time.
I'm not asking to be paid.
No, I understand. No, I was not didn't want to think you were saying that I was saying that. So,
and I do think it's important for us to recognize that we heard a side of the story in public comment, and that if this actually reached a point of a true hearing, we would hear both sides. And I think that we have a duty as a board to remain as unbiased as possible if we reach that point.
Exactly.
All right. All right. So we thank everyone from Lee County. We thank Representative Murdock in particular for taking some time away from the legislature today. Be safe traveling home. Let's go. We're going to take a break. Our reporter is going to be able to skedaddle, and so let's pick back up at 2:35.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I guess on my part, it's a good morning, good afternoon, good day. And my deepest apologies to all for joining only now at the end of the day. As I think all have shared, had a run-in with a gallbladder, a sick gallbladder, and surgery a couple weeks ago, and then this morning had a doctor's appointment that I couldn't miss after being a bad patient the last few weeks. Needed to at very least complete with that appointment, so I appreciate all, and above all, obviously, Dr. Barth. Thank you so much for your leadership today. So just to round us off this afternoon with our reports, as part of the chair's report, having spent much of this month either in doctors or the hospital, I don't have much to report on myself personally, but in the rounds with our colleagues, I've heard, Ms. Zook, that you have a report to share this morning. Ms. Zook, you're recognized.
Well, I don't know that it's a report, but I had the privilege of attending the Rogers Lowell Chamber banquet, and at that banquet, 2 educators were honored. Judy Meeks, who was put into the Rogers Lowell Educator Hall of Fame, and then Dr. Jane Darr was given the Dick Trammell Good Neighbor Award, which is sort of an overall, she does a little bit of everything and it all helps our community. And then, so I wanted to call, I'm sure there are a lot of educators getting recognized. I just happened to be at that particular banquet, and since that is 2 of our board members' congressional district, I wanted to be sure that those 2 great educators were recognized.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to keep celebrating our great leaders here in Arkansas. So with that, we will move on now to our standing committees and special committees and liaison positions. Starting off this morning with the Forward Arkansas report. Dr. Barth, you're recognized.
I'll actually just save that, Corey will be presenting in just a few minutes, and so I think that'll present an opportunity for conversation about Forward.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barth. And I believe as well, Corey has been reaching out for the one-on-ones has been promised, and sure do appreciate that follow-up from our last meeting. Moving on to our Deeper Learning Grant, Ms. Kaufman, I don't know at this time if you'd like to, I think everyone has received the agenda for tomorrow. Obviously, that's our next step in the process. Didn't know if you wanted to run through the agenda or entertain any questions at this time, but that really is our update for the Deeper Learning Grant this month.
We will have 3 cars, carpooling to Dermont in the morning. We'll start our meeting at 9 o'clock. We'll recognize our National Board Certified Teachers, and then take a little break and get into our carpools. And I'll give you a printout of this in the morning so you can see exactly which car you're in. We will stop for lunch on the way at a designated area, and then meet Superintendent Ridgel in the administrative office at Dermont by 1 o'clock. She'll guide us on school walkthrough of the buildings. We'll come back to that administrative office and have a meeting with the district and building leadership teams. And in the document that I sent you, I gave you some proposed questions. She and I worked on those questions together so that it's just more of a conversation than a presentation about the progress that they're making and what they're doing to sustain that progress. At 3:15, school will be out, and the staff have been invited to come by and visit with board members. You can do that formally or informally. I've given you kind of guiding questions for that conversation as well. And then at 4:30, you'll have dinner on site with the local school board. The local school board members will be there to have dinner with you for another great conversation around the dinner table. And then at 5:30, the administrative office will be opened up for the community. And the community has been invited to come, and once again, just a good general conversation. They're guiding questions, but it's just an opportunity for people to talk about the progress that have made, and their sustainability plan to continue that progress, and then what a district needs going forward that has a declining balance, declining enrollment. So how do they sustain this kind of progress facing the issues that many of our districts face in the Delta? And then we plan then to load back up in those 3 cars and come home approximately around 6:30. So that'll get you back into Little Rock around 8:30-ish, give or take, depending on traffic and weather.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kaufman. I know how much work you've put into this, and I can't even begin to thank you for making this opportunity come to fruition. That was definitely my large motivation for not missing today, or at the end of today into tomorrow, was I know this has been long in the works. I wanted to see if any of my colleagues have any questions about logistics for tomorrow. Otherwise, I know we'll have some good car time in terms of maybe as we get prepared to be as effective as possible in our questions for tomorrow evening. But thank you again for facilitating that opportunity. And then I'll just, as a logistical matter, say with the Deeper Learning Grant, we have now been assigned a new staff member at NASB who will support us both in, because this is a 2-year grant, so we're only in year 1 of 2. And so I'll extend an invitation, especially to my colleagues that will be joining us in Washington, D.C. next week for the NASB Legislative Summit. That'll represent our first meeting with our new grant liaison, where we'll have an opportunity to reflect on this year and the year ahead. And if there's any input from board members about how these funds and resources can support us during this time, obviously this grant has part of that bridge between deeper learning and also in this context of ESSA and legislative change here in Arkansas. So if thoughts emerge that you would like us to highlight at the time of that meeting, I welcome the opportunity to do so. Thank you so much. Moving on to our ESSA Steering Committee. Ms. Newton, you're recognized.
Put on your table a timeline. Right now, the ESSA groups have, I told you last time about the packet that had to be filled out, and we divided into advisory teams. And the advisory teams in the midst of doing their work. I hope you've served on different committees and had some meetings with them along. I wanted to point out to you, this is the timeline, we're in the midst of that work, but I wanted to point out to you where you can actually go on the website and find the advisory team work. This is the ESSA page. And if you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see that button that says ESSA Advisory Teams. If you'll click that, there's the same timeline that I gave you. But then if you go on down past that, you'll see each one of the groups, and just like that accountability group, if you see that where it says link to accountability work, you can click that, and even if you're not serving on that particular advisory team, you can get to some of the ongoing work that they're doing and see some of the questions that they have, what input they're getting, what survey results, and so you can look at that. Not every advisory team has information there yet, but several of them do, and that is being updated as more and more information comes in. I know the accountability group, and I know the English learner group also has a link that you can click, and as time goes on and they gather more information, that will be a good place for you to go to stay up to date. But you can see from your timeline by the end of the month, you know, it's going to be several decisions are starting to kind of be cemented into what's going to be happening. And with, I know the changes that are coming up, one of the things that we found out last meeting, even the template is, they're going to get a new template next week. So, you know, things are changing day by day, but the work is going on, and the advisory teams are doing great work, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to make great strides in education. Another thing that happened, I'll go ahead and speak for Megan now. She did a Twitter chat on ESSA this last month, and I think she had between 100 and 150 teachers that either participated by commenting or participated by listening, but following along, and got some good feedback. Some teachers don't even know what ESSA is, never even heard of it, but you know, just got the conversation going. And the next Wednesday of our March ESSA meeting, she's going to have another Twitter chat along those same lines. So she's getting information out, so I've been real proud of her. And I'm going ahead and, she's not here today, she's got the flu, but if you go ahead and look down at the bottom at her blog, if you haven't got a chance, read it. She did an excellent job. It's on the Teach Again campaign and getting the work out, but she's doing a good job with that, and we had to hold her down to keep her from being here this month, but she is giving you an assignment for tomorrow, okay? And that assignment is you know that we are trying to promote teaching in the teaching profession. So tomorrow you're going to meet some teachers. She wants you to give a teacher impact award. Okay, so we've already got them printed up for you, but as a teacher, I'm not going to give them to you till tomorrow because I know you'll lose them. Okay, so tomorrow we'll get one of these once we get to Dermont. So your task is to find a teacher. All you got to do is sign your name and put the date. Okay, find a teacher, tell them how proud you are of the hard work that they're doing, and get a picture made. Okay, it's an easy task. So you've got your assignment. And if you don't do it, I'm going to tell Megan, you better watch out. She'll get you, okay? But I think it's going great, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Ms. Newton. I saw Ms. Friedman back there making a photo sign, which to me, I think as we confer those diplomas, and encouragement from the department to make sure it gets captured in photos, so then we can also post that on social media and be able to spread that appreciation to even a bigger audience. So thank you, Ms. Friedman. Thank you, Ms. Newton. And thank you, Megan. That's wonderful. Yes, Dr. Barth.
Yeah, probably for the commissioner, but obviously the votes today in the Senate and the potential undermining of the rules that are in place. I mean, what is your initial thought in terms of the impact on Arkansas on this timeline?
My initial thought is our work will continue.
Good answer.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to. I think we have a lot of momentum. We have a lot of stakeholder engagement, and to put a pause on that without knowing, I mean, this isn't the first time we've been thrown a curveball, and each time we just keep progressing. And we will keep doing that, and our aim is still for September submission, and whatever guidance we get from U.S. Department of Education from this point forward we'll use to guide our work. But we feel so strongly about the importance of this plan, putting together our state accountability system, and how it's intertwined with how we're changing with our legislation and everything else. This is something we should do without ESSA. I mean, ESSA has given us some good things to move and build from, but as we get into it, this is just good education policy, and I think it's going to provide good support for our students and our educators and our districts, and we're just going to keep plugging away.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on now to our Standing Committee on Academic Distress. Ms. Zook, I don't know if you have any announcements.
Well, I have a couple of things. I want to point out that since our Academic Distress Committee started meeting, we have 10 schools that are no longer in academic. That's like taking credit for the former superintendent. You didn't have anything to do with it, but as long as you're passing out awards. But I think the main thing that sort of speaks to our conversation this morning about covenant keepers is that they will be coming, and already know they are, in June, back before the Academic Distress Committee. So we could, in fact, if that would please the board, have that be before the whole board as opposed to just our committee. Otherwise, we'll be charter panel will be looking at them, and they'll have to come back and give a report to us, and then turn right back around. Either that, or we can eliminate the June academic distress appearance. So just wanted to get a feel for the board. To catch you up to date, Ms. Wright, we looked, as you're aware, on the agenda this morning, and there were the two that were still, and we have, some of us have expressed concerns about covenant keepers, and we have asked the charter panel to delve into that, along with maybe reports that are available already in the charter office, and then give a recommendation or guidance to us. We didn't want to do anything that would interfere with the life of the students and their academics and their parents and the teachers out of timeline. But we do want to know what's going on, are they making progress, and those kind of things. So now that it's on the June agenda for academic distress, it may influence what the charter panel, their timing, and or whether or not that becomes before the full board. And I don't expect a prompt and quick decision right now, but just being aware that they were going to come before Academic Distress Committee already, and they know that in June.
Thank you. Moving on to the Little Rock Area Public Education Stakeholder Group. Dr. Barth.
Yeah, the stakeholder group is meeting on Monday. They are beginning to work, as I said last time, on their final report to us. And I think that's going to be the focus of their work on Monday. I don't know how, I haven't seen exactly where they are on that, so I'm not sure how long until we get that. But they are moving towards some completion of their duties based on the kind of amended charge that they have received over time.
Do you know whether or not they saw this article in the state education standards publication, and it might be something they'd be interested in reading? It's called Encouraging Districts and Charters to Link Arms to Solve Problems. Did I? Okay, I thought I remembered having her send that out, or you did.
I saw it on that listserv.
But I've slept since then.
Thank you. Next is the NASB committee, and once again myself. And I actually have a question, probably as a start more than an update. We do have our legislative summit coming up next week in Washington, D.C. And Ms. Kaufman, or in 2 weeks, apologies, 2 weeks. And I was wondering, Ms. Kaufman, who's RSVP'd from Arkansas? I know that our chair will be there, Dr. Barth. And I didn't know if we had additional members attending from the state of Arkansas. Not this year? Okay.
I'll be meeting with the congressional delegation from Arkansas next week, so if y'all want any education stuff put in their area, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Well, and then that would be my other question with Dr. Barth. I know I put in for NASB possible assistance with meeting with our congressmen and senators. It's usually part of the legislative summit as they arrange those meetings for us, and obviously very timely right now in terms of understanding what's going on the Hill. Have you heard directly from NASB as of yet?
I have a meeting set with Citra Bozeman. I know that Dr. Gocher will be attending the Chiefs meeting at the same time, and he and I are going to meet with Congressman Womack together on Monday.
Okay.
And then I've got a meeting being scheduled with Congressman Hill.
Okay.
And he had met with Senator Cotton a couple of weeks ago as well. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of conversation. So we can visit about whether you'd like to join either or both of those meetings.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I'd expressed an interest, hadn't heard back, but I'm also behind on correspondence, as you might imagine, for the last few days. So just wanted to make sure that opportunity didn't fall through the crack, and I will indeed avail myself then of that opportunity. Dr. Barth, thank you. And for the rest of our board members, we look forward to hopefully bringing back some updates. I will say the most recent confirmation amongst speakers is our newest Secretary of Education. So that'll be, I think, an excellent opportunity for us to hear her speak and to kind of garner, at least in her first few weeks, about where she's thinking in terms of direction of the department and what we might expect for the year ahead. And our last committee belongs to Dr. Hill, who I know is not here today. So I guess, and I apologize, there is one more. Ms. Zook, now that we've added special education, I don't know if you have any reports.
They have not met yet,
Okay.
So when they do, then I'll be ready and prepared.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I can give you an update for the Discipline Committee in Dr. Hill's absence. We met with the group this morning, and the stakeholders there and the department, I think, came to some agreement on language of the bill draft that we have. And we showed them, Dr. Saunders He said it's like showing pictures of his kids. He showed them my school info and some of the information that is available, how you can access discipline information there. But we will be sending out the draft amendment, and so Rich Huddleston from Advocates, Dr. Jenny Blankenship from Advocates, Jerry Derlikowski. We'll have to send it to the AAEA because they could not be in attendance because of issues, duties that they had up at the Capitol. But we'll send that out, and hopefully we'll have something that is an agreed upon piece of legislation. Dr. Ritter was on the phone as well and gave some valuable input. Ms. Lamb with our ALE unit. We feel pretty good about what we're going to put forward and the commitment that we've made to trying to give best practices and make those resources available to our districts that are, as they identify challenges in dealing with certain disciplinary issues, and tracking that so that there's public awareness of it.
Yes. That's truly exciting, Commissioner. Thank you. And thank you for moving so quickly on that. I know it's a concern we've been expressing for the last few years, but just to see the evolution these last few months of action is tremendously encouraging. Any other reports? And I'm just looking at last glance. Then moving on to report number 3, our Forward Arkansas report. Cody Briggs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Corey Biggs with Forward Arkansas. There's the, yep. So I have just a brief presentation and then, of course, open for questions. First of all, wanted to put this back up there. This is something that we shared with the members of the State Board that we gathered with last month. It was sort of a re-envisioning of our 7 key focus areas. I think that there was a perception up to this point, since those things were all sort of laid out side by side in any sort of publication that we had produced before, that it was something that was linear or some sort of continuum. And we thought that this was a little bit better visual, drawing attention, of course, to the top, that our main goal, our mission statement, is to close the achievement gap, which would, in our hopes, result in the alleviation of academic distress around the state. And in order to do that, we know that there are several strategies that need to be focused in on, whether it's pre-K or whether it's the things that happen inside of the school building, more often than not, teaching and learning, improvements to the teacher pipeline, strong leadership, or whether it's those supports beyond the classroom, and then as you see, the systems and policies down below in this visualization, which sort of undergird the entire set of strategies. But to follow up on that, we are continuing our partnership with the department, meeting regularly with staff, trying to be cognizant of everyone's time, especially during the session. We have, of course, those 7 key areas that we have taken our time to take a deeper dive into and make sure that we can look at each of the recommendations that were in the vision report that the State Board adopted in 2015. And in light of ESSA and changes in state law now, that we know which one of those we're still making some headway on, or whether we have a ways to go or need to shift direction, or frankly, whether some of them are irrelevant because of the changes in law. And so we've gotten great feedback from the department staff on that, and I believe that it's been helpful. We've been told it's been helpful by the department staff, but certainly it's going to be crucial for us to take that feedback as we sort of revamp that vision at some point in the middle of 2017. The conversations themselves, no doubt at the suggestion of the conversations that we've had with you all as members of the State Board, the conversations with staff are evolving to focus particularly on alleviation of academic distress. And as we've taken those deeper dives into those other focus areas, we have started to think about those in terms of how they can be a strategy for improving academic outcomes, and particularly for places that are missing these pieces or haven't been able to connect the dots in the most productive way just yet. So you see a few of those up there. These are things that everybody, whether it's the, can you all hear me? I just noticed I'm sort of leaning over the mic. Got a little too comfortable up here. you know, whether it's the governor's initiatives or whether it's what we're hearing from experts, whether it's in the state or around the country, you see pre-K, attention to third grade reading level, and also quality after-school and summer programming so that there's not that loss, particularly with attention to literacy as key components of creating a very excellent school system at the beginning and building up from there. And then, of course, the most important piece, as we've talked about, is the community engagement piece, which sort of leads to the discussion of our forward communities and the work that we're doing there. We want these places to be demonstration models, both for their community to lift itself up, as well as for their neighbors to see, but also for everybody all around the state to see, and particularly those areas that are struggling with resources or with strategies around academic distress right now. A couple of notes about the community's work. You see there that the strategic planning is progressing. We're in different places in all 5 of those communities, and that will remain. The finished products are going to look very different in each of those 5 places. At its heart, this is organizing of resources that exist in these communities, and that's an arduous process. It has many fits and starts, and we've experienced some of that. You guys were witness to some of that earlier today, but we have good teams in place. We're continuing to pull folks in to build those teams of both formal and informal leadership to help guide the strategic planning process. And we expect to have that, at least a first draft of a plan that they can own and go forward with by the fall of this year. In each of our 5 forward communities, and then also one additional point, partially in response to what we've heard from the state board, as well as in response to invitations that we've received from these 2 communities. We have begun to reach out to Dollarway and Little Rock in a more formal way. I don't at this point see them being designated a forward community, even though the definition of that in and of itself is something that's a bit nebulous. But we have been invited to help them out in whatever way that we can, as far as helping them look at the resources that they have available locally and trying to align them in a strategic way so that they have a better functioning system. And I think that we've received very positive responses from both of those communities. I'm not sure exactly what our involvement is going to look like. We've tossed around several ideas, and a lot of it's going to be dependent on what's interesting to them, because, again, this is not buy-in and input. It's co-creation and ownership. The community engagement really has to be the part that carries this forward, because at the end of each day, our small staff and the partners that we have, most of us are going to get up and leave those towns after the meetings and go back to wherever we came from. So we really want it to be something that can be owned at the local level. A couple of events that we have coming up for the communities. We have, at the end of this month, March 30th and 31st, a forward thinking conference, a little play on words. It's going to be hosted in Batesville, which is in Independence County, one of our forward communities, at the UA Community College, UACCB in Batesville. Day 1 is going to be focused on best practices. We're going to be bringing in folks from around the state as well as some national leaders. Our keynote speaker there is Tom Vander Ark, who was the first education program director for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and runs a nonprofit now that does a lot of consulting with schools and communities as well as states as a whole. And he's written a couple of books that we're also going to make sure that every participant at this Forward Thinking Conference gets to take back with them. Particularly one is called Smart Cities, and it's a pretty good model, and it's uncanny how much that matches up with the things that we've already been talking about with each of these 5 communities. Day 2, the 31st, is really going to be focused on those community teams being able to work on their plan intensively based on the conversations that we've had to this point, as well as what they heard the day before. and then also to make sure that they're sharing that with one another, because we want this to be a cohort of demonstration models that develops as closely as we can along the same continuum. And then in April, we want to expose them to some of the best practices around the nation, and we are planning at this point a learning journey to Chicago, hoping that takes place in April. Still got to confirm some dates with some of our facilitators in the Chicago area, but this is based on something that the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, one of our partners, did with the communities that are engaged in the Arkansas Campaign for Grade Level Reading in 2016, going to visit some Chicago public schools and focusing on three things in particular: families in the classroom. There is an excellent community engagement model that's being used by the Logan Square Neighborhood Association called the Parent Mentor Model. They have some wonderful stories at a handful of schools within that neighborhood association's footprint that have brought in volunteer parents. They eventually ended up offering them a stipend if they stuck it out through an entire semester, a stipend per each semester that they were involved. But it brought in retired folks, it brought in otherwise unemployed folks, and a lot of parents of current students. Of course, they couldn't be in their child's room, they had to go somewhere else, and they were only assigned to the teachers' rooms who volunteered to take them. But the principal that we spoke with said that the first year that they did this, they had a very intensive training on how to take these folks and make them an actual resource in the classroom for teachers, so that they could, if they were doing a reading activity, they could take small groups and everyone would have a little bit closer to one-on-one attention. They started out very small. I think they had 8 parent mentors in 2 classrooms. The next school year, he said almost every teacher in the school came up to him and said, "Hey, can I get some of those parent mentors in my classroom?" They learned real quick that if they got sick and they had to miss a day, for the kids it was almost like they weren't gone, that they had the parent mentors who were still showing up there, and they started to tell the substitute teacher that day, no, this is the way we usually do it. So they were really taking ownership of the classroom as those parent mentors, and they've been doing this for about a half a dozen years now, and they've had a couple of folks come through the program that have decided to go back to school and pursue a degree in education. So it's a bit of a grow your own initiative for that community as well. The next model is families in schools, and that is the traditional community school model, full-scale community schools. That's sort of the pie in the sky version in a place that is resource rich, obviously. This particular neighborhood in Chicago that I know the Rural Community Alliance is trying to work through a grant from the King Foundation to implement in some places around the state of Arkansas. And that is a model where you have a school that really embraces the fact that it was built by the community, is owned by the community, and it's there for them. The doors stay open much more than just the traditional school day. It stays open on weekends. They invite parents and folks from the community in to take adult education classes, cooking classes, personal finance classes, and to do some of that with students that are staying around after hours as well. And that's really been positive for them in the Brighton Park Neighborhood Association, because they've found that just the involvement level, the investment level from a human capital standpoint in the schools has just gone through the roof. Of course, that's takes, again, quite a bit of resources, and that's maybe not necessarily something, as opposed to, I would say, the parent mentor model, where folks from our communities in Arkansas can go and see that and be able to say, aha, I'm going to go back to my community in Arkansas and implement that tomorrow. That might be something that's sort of a goal on the other end of scaling up. But we wanted to be able to show folks that, because we do see that as a best practice for community engagement if you've got the right combination of stuff where that could work. And we want them to be able to have some good things to aim for. And then lastly, we'll be talking about families at the policymaking table. which is a parent leader model from Kofi of Chicago, and that's they're a nonprofit organization, and we'll actually be going to their office there to talk about how they have taken parents and really engaged them in what their civic responsibilities are and how their system of government works, both within the city and the state, and how the changes that happen at the policy-making table affect their children's lives and their own lives, and really getting them a deeper level of political and policy engagement. So on that trip, we will be taking a smaller group from each of the 5 communities, but some self-identified folks who can and will report back to their leadership teams, and we have made invitations to Little Rock to have some, I think 2 people from Little Rock to join us on that trip, and then we're working through RCA to identify some representatives from Dollarway, and we hope that they'll be able to join us as well. And I believe that's it for the slideshow. Entertain any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Corey, so much for this follow-up from our last meeting and giving some more tangible information about what those next steps are. And I'm very excited to hear, and that Batesville gets to host this conversation. I know the hard work that they're putting in over there as a community. So we'll look forward to hear about the outcome of your upcoming conference, but then also with the trip to Chicago. I guess the only question that jumps out to me in regards to your report is obviously knowing the demographics of our state, if there'll be opportunities to learn from, I guess, states that have rural populations, maybe more similar to ours, not to dismiss in any way Chicago, and we know that a lot of, and as you've, I think well laid out, a lot of the projects that are being planned are aligned with what you're giving them the opportunity to see, and I think that's what probably Chicago is presenting in terms of opportunity, but I know that just even with my own involvement in NASB, the states from whom I can have many times more relatable conversations are those that have more comparable demographics. Is that something that's been conversed about?
Not in any formal way yet. I think that's something that's great feedback, and that's something that we ought to keep in mind once we get beyond this initial trip. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that the models that we saw in the Chicago area were models of a strong culture of organizing resources, and we move at our own pace in the South, and that has pros and cons. But we wanted to see if we could expose some of those practices to our communities here in Arkansas, and see if we can bring them back home and have organizing with a Southern accent. And I think that'll be a good first step, but excellent feedback about also exposing them to neighboring states and more rural states around the country as well, and what's going on there that might be a better fit.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Questions, comments? Yes, Ms. Zook.
I know that a lot of your emphasis right now is on pre-K,
yes.
And statistically, according to DHS, there are seats available for any child who's below the 138% poverty level.
200%.
Well, 200% is the goal, but 100, all they're available for all of them. That, and for several years. And what I'm wondering is, when we get our test results back, we still know that only between 30 and 40% are reading on grade level by by 3rd grade. So I wonder if there's any studies going on by Forward, or if you know of any other group that's advocating is it the 40% that were in pre-K? Is it a split between those who weren't in pre-K but maybe came from a more affluent family? Is it the difference in whether a district's controlling the pre-K or it's just an independent ABC program? Because and of course, I hear a lot from the business community. One of the things they keep hounding me about is the measure of success that Ms. Chambers discusses often. How do you know that the pre-K program is quality and is successful when you have this many kids that have had pre-K for several years? I mean, not the same kids, but it's been offered. But the numbers at the end of 3rd grade don't correlate to the number of kids that were in pre-K. So what is making the difference? Is it because they need more of the whole child, you know, their physical, emotional, social, you know, not just their academic need? You know, I think that would be helpful if you or one of the other groups that advocates could say, well, we had 64 is the number, 64% of the kids were in pre-K. But by the end of third grade, only 30 to 40% of the kids in the third grade in Arkansas are at level. So where is the problem? What is the drop-off? Are we not doing something in kindergarten? Are we not doing something in second grade? Is it because we've discovered a lot of our teachers don't know how to teach reading? You know, wherein lies the problem that even the kids who are in pre-K are not coming to third grade level? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
And I think the best answer is yes, all of the above to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Part of the better answer to that question is something that we hope will come from really taking a look at our data systems and making sure that we've got experts who can come in and analyze the data that's available and make sure that it's talking to each other, that the pre-K data that's held at DHS can really talk to the K-12 data that's kept by the department. And that's one of the things that we've been working on with WestStat, which is a national research organization based out of Texas. And I think we're off to a good start there. It's going to take probably several more months before we can really make that longitudinal analysis, but I think that we've got the right people on board to help us do that. But as far as trying to pull out what all of the causes are for some of the drop-offs or the fade-outs that you might see, yes, we've seen some good studies. We've seen some studies that point out exactly what you're talking about, and we've seen some studies that refute those studies, and I'd be more than happy to share those with you all as soon as I get back to my computer. But in general, I would say the things that we pull out of those are, number one, you do see improvement for students who are in ABC programs in Arkansas as compared to their peers in their income level that do not attend an ABC program. So you see a pretty sizable gap in their readiness level versus the lack of readiness level for their peers who are not getting anything before they enter kindergarten. I think that anecdotally, what we've heard from K through 3 teachers is that they're having to spend a lot of their time on those low-income students who don't have any pre-K by the time they show up to them, which I think, you know, we sort of create our own achievement gaps sometimes, right? So I think that that's probably part of the answer to the fade-out for those low-income students who did have pre-K. Part of it is dependent on the school environment, you know, whether they're able to be in a classroom environment, K through 3, with students from more affluent families, and there's a good mixture, and they can sort of lift each other up. It's certainly a question of what we've been doing to teach reading up to this point, and I think that we see some clear areas for improvement there that the governor and the commissioner and the department staff is leading the way on. And so, yes, it's all of the above. But I do think that we do have some studies that show very clearly that there's a huge benefit to low-income families whose children are able to enroll in an ABC program versus whether those same types of families would not have had that opportunity. And certainly, you know, worth considering where those students would be if they didn't have the opportunity. You know, if some of those are fading out and they're not reading at grade level by third grade now, then we can imagine where they might be if they didn't have pre-K at all, considering that they came to school more prepared than their peers.
I guess I'm just wondering where the fall off is. If we have I think 64 is the number, 64% of the kids in that age group, and therefore are qualified, are going to pre-K, and there are other children who are from affluent families, or maybe not, but anyway, that don't have they aren't behind. We wouldn't judge them to be behind. And then we get to the end of third grade, and we don't have even half of the ones who had pre-K. Either that, or we don't have any of the ones who didn't have pre-K but didn't, quote, qualify. it's just a disturbing outcome.
Well, a lot of times we have, such poverty and folks who are so far behind by the time their kids even enroll in an ABC program at age 3 or age 4 that, yes, they're going to be more prepared than their peers who did not go to an ABC program, but will they be as prepared by the time they show up at kindergarten as they should be? Or will they be as prepared as students from affluent families? Probably not, because the gap is just so big that even an excellent pre-K program can't make up 100% of that gap in
I
1 or 2
understand.
years.
Yeah, I understand. And I think sometimes when you listen to, nationally or whatever, they're saying if you only had gone to pre-K, then you would have graduated with honors and on level, as opposed to if you didn't go. And as we know as educators, that is unfortunately not necessarily the case.
Right.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hook. Yes, Dr. Barth.
Yeah, no, just to pick up on Ms. Hook's comment, I mean, I think we often think about one of these interventions as the silver bullet that's going to solve these problems. And what I really like about the vision in Forward is its multifaceted approach. It's a wraparound services, it's after-school programs, it's pre-K, it's all of those things have to be humming together. It's discipline policies that don't boot kids out of school when they should be in school learning. I mean, all these things have to be working together to really get the kind of reading scores we want by third grade and all the other successes after that. So.
And I think that's a part of the conversation that fails to be had.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about us or them, but because I think I made that plea when we talked about Little Rock Prep. When you're trying to feed a child and emotionally deal with him and socially deal with him and hygiene and academics, you're not going to get the same results as quickly as if you were just dealing with the academic part of a child. So,
exactly.
Thank you so much. Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Thanks
With
so
that-
much.
No, thank you so much. Now moving on to report number 4 from the Commissioner. Commissioner Key, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I have 3 items. I want to talk a little bit about an update on our work in providing opportunities for traditionally underserved students with respect to AP, a little bit about our legislative package, and then we'll finish up. Ms. Friedman and the communications team has another innovation video that we have ready to roll out. I know that's always fun, and this will be another knock your socks off video. But I want to give some good news about one of our school districts that has received this week. We were notified that the England School District was named to the College Board's AP District Honor Roll, which recognizes school districts across the U.S. and Canada for increasing AP access to underrepresented students. And so let me tell you what they recognize. So the College Board districts recognized to meet the following criteria: increase participation to AP by at least 4% in large districts, at least 6% in medium districts, and at least 11% in small districts. The England district was recognized by having a 30% in the 30% or greater enrollment of students who qualified for free and reduced lunch in AP courses. So 2016, we had 5 districts on the AP District Honor Roll and 5 on the Honor Roll in 2015. So England's the only one, but we think that that's going to grow in the future. One of the reasons is through partnerships like what we have established with Equal Opportunity Schools. It's connected with efforts from the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation to increase access again to underserved student groups with respect to AP and upper level coursework. And we have 3 districts who have been approved to work with the Equal Opportunity Schools, have been invited: Bentonville, Conway, and Jonesboro. And we are assisting those districts with a grant that at the end of this period, depending on their growth in efforts of getting more of these underserved student groups participating in AP coursework, we will help them offset the cost of this program. So We are encouraging other districts to look at this, but we think this is very important as we are working on our strategic process in the state of increasing student focused learning. We certainly think that there are more students out there who need access and can do that level work, and up to this point we have missed them. So this is an effort to try to fill that gap with getting more of those students. With respect to our legislative package, we have 2 bills that have now become law. One of those is our test bill, and wouldn't you know that before I started my report, I deleted that, so I have to find it again. Our test updates is now, that bill is now Act 295, and our licensure, which is going to be very important for creating that tiered structure, and then giving you all the authority to set some standards with respect to ethics for the teachers on waivers, is now Act 294. So 2 have made it through the entire process. I won't read the entire list, but some that you all I think will like to know kind of where we are. Our school choice, our bill to try to remedy some of the issues and challenges that continue to arise with respect to appeals that come before you. That has passed the Senate committee and is awaiting action on the Senate floor. We have a special ed update bill that has passed out of Senate committee and is on the Senate floor. And issues regarding discipline, as I mentioned this morning, that's going to be House Bill 1859.
What is the special ed one?
It is just simply updating our state law to reflect changes in federal. The other one that's out of Educator Effectiveness Group is on background checks, and that is it passed out of House Ed, but has to be amended again. But we feel like that we have that issue addressed that came up during committee. We don't see any issues at this point getting through the session and getting all of our bills that the high priority bills passed. The big one is, as I mentioned to you all, we now have a bill number on the accountability bill. It's Senate Bill 647. Senator English is sponsoring that for us. I had described that bill to y'all, but it's a shell bill now. We're working on getting the amendments ready to make that a regular bill.
Is that ACTAP?
That is the replacement of ACTAP. Yes, that is correct. And any questions on either of those 2 items before we move to the video?
Quick question, please. Ms. Chambers, yes.
Commissioner, relative to our use of the term access on AP, and so as we talk about students that are unrepresented or underrepresented in participation, does our definition of access include affordability? Is that, are we saying that's part of it? I heard somebody use as an example once that they had access to buying a $10 million house, but that didn't mean they could afford it.
Yep.
Which really gave me pause in terms of when we're working so hard to create access. Does it take all of that into consideration, what it means to actually be able to participate?
Yeah, and really the only area where cost becomes a factor would be taking the AP exams possibly, but that's not a factor that's not something that's passed on to students. So we don't see that as a barrier at all. As a matter of fact, what this does, it really focuses using multiple measures on identifying those students that really should be or could benefit, but for whatever reasons, I want to say they're discouraged from it, but maybe not by school staff, but by circumstances. Maybe the better way to put it is they're not explicitly encouraged to pursue AP and upper level coursework. But your point is well taken. In this case, that's not an issue because of the way the state pays for AP exams.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chambers. Any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, Commissioner.
All right. Kim?
This may look like a self-defense course, but it's really a physical science class at Malvern High School. Meet Akau Aneth, the teacher. He was looking for a way to improve student achievement in his classes.
And the response was really not very good initially, and I was wondering what was missing.
That missing element turned out to be getting his students up and moving. With an emphasis on physical activity, healthy nutrition, and student achievement, Malvern is changing the culture of a district and a community.
Because I wasn't engaging the students the way I wanted to.
Instead of giving students worksheets and formulas, he had students collect their own data, like time and distance. They were out of their seats and up on their feet, doing experiments on the school's football field and track. Then he saw a difference.
Once they got back in and were doing the application of it, then those formulas made sense. They knew what was necessary.
Another benefit he saw?
The rest of their day could be enhanced just by doing that in that period.
The classes are a bit different, but so is the cafeteria. Students have choices of pizzas made with fresh vegetables and whole wheat crust, sandwiches, or lunches made with less fat and salt. They also have a fresh salad bar and easy access to water and low-cal drinks.
When we first started with our program 4 years ago, we were serving what I would call basically unhealthy meals. They were loaded with fat, with sodium, with salt, and they might have tasted good, but we had a lot of fried foods, things that we thought kids would eat. And so that's basically what we served: hot dogs, cheeseburgers, corn dogs, nachos. So over this period of time, we have evolved into fresh fruits and vegetables. I acquired a steamer for the cafeteria here, so we have steamed vegetables, and the kids like the way they look and they taste. We've added fresh fruits and vegetables on the line every day at breakfast and at lunch. We have a salad bar that is loaded with types of choices of fresh vegetables and fruits. And it's amazing to see how the kids like to eat pineapple chunks and mandarin oranges and peaches and things they might not have had before. In the 11th and 12th grade, they can go off campus. So they are now choosing to eat in the cafeteria because they have bought into the fact that they want to eat healthier.
My daughter here at the high school, I have one at elementary and middle school, and they all they want more fruits and vegetables. And so while I'm out shopping, green apples, bananas, we get all of that now.
Our kids are really trying to reduce our obesity problem that we have. We do have a lot of diabetic students, and we have a lot of students who are overweight and obese, and that's been a problem for about 15 years. So we see that that's changing in at least the choices that they have at school, and they have so many varieties to choose from.
And so we have added some courses to our master schedule. We have recreational sports, PE and leisure, and in addition to the fitness and health and just regular PE classes. We also try to empower our teachers to incorporate physical education inside of their coursework.
It's hard to get high school kids to think about the future, but I really, I bring it up every single day, thinking about, hey, think about when you're 60, think about when you're 70, start these little changes, and I think if we all here at Malvern High School can come together on that conclusion, then, we can't be hurting the kids, we're obviously helping them. If they just take anything with them from this class as far as anything to be healthier, then I think I have reached my goal.
The dividends of healthy eating and physical activity for students: improved academic achievement, reduced absenteeism, and fewer discipline problems.
For me personally, if I have a student in my office, whether they've come to me on their own because they have an issue or a teacher has asked me to check on someone because they're worried about them, one of the things to get out right away is, are they hungry? Are they hydrated?
So our achievement has increased, and the reason that I know that is I monitor the number of students that lose credit in a class. And that number was cut almost in half fall semester of this year, and it was also cut in the spring of last year. So we have more students that are achieving more because they're eating healthier. and they're leading healthier lives. They want to exercise. They want to go outside with their classes and be more physically active.
One student's advice to other Arkansas students about healthy choices?
First off, I would tell them that it starts with them. So having it at the school, that helps you a lot. But at the end of the day, it helps you when you go home. You take those values that the school teaches you. You take those different meals that they incorporate throughout the day and you apply it to your home life. So I would say even if your school doesn't necessarily have the healthy foods or they don't incorporate that into their lunch, I would say take that home, look up different research. Find different ways that you could be a healthy person. Find different ways that you could do physical fitness, just ways to get active, ways to improve your lifestyle.
Yay, Melvin.
Yes.
If you all will remember, I think it was Malvern that when they came and made a presentation sometime last year, they were the first district in their presentation to actually incorporate our vision, our mission into the work that they were doing, and I think this video reflects a lot of that student-centered effort that we're starting to see more and more of around the state. So please help us promote the video. Be posted on our website, and use your social media accounts to help us get the word out. And that's, Madam Chair, that's my report.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And if I could humbly suggest if it could also be shared with those wonderful students that gave the presentation to us about their surveys and had identified food as one of those top priorities. I think, again, this is really warming to be able to see the AD so responsive to the issues that are being brought before us and to try and highlight when we're actually doing work in that area. And so if there's opportunities when folks like those students who so adamantly brought that up before us to see that there's positive work being done, I think that helps connect the bridge in seeing how proactive the department is. So thank you so much. And my mother would be very proud. Not proud of me right now, but yes, proud of the department and what they're doing. So now to move on then to our fifth report, and I'm not sure if it will be proceeding or not since Ms. Abels is not here. I know, Ms. Noonan, you referenced her blog. I don't know if anyone had wanted to speak any words to it, except that we definitely should avail ourselves. Commissioner.
It's got to be killing her not to be here to talk about it, so and we miss her.
We'll give her extra time next month.
And Ms. Abels, we hope you're watching and that you know how grateful we are for your leadership. And obviously, Ms. Noonan, I know how hard you've been working with her. And I've been seeing the photos all over Facebook with Ms. Cochran, our new upcoming Teacher of the Year. So I feel like there's a family, a team effort that's really coming together that I maybe in the previous years on the board, I hadn't quite seen that. And so to see across the generations how you guys are working as a team, I think is taking the program even to the next level. If 1 year is enough to cause a generation, then we're in deep trouble. But yes.
If I could just make one more announcement that I should have mentioned, but not an announcement, just to brag on the team, the ADE team. You know, I always find something to brag about, but this week especially with the literacy team, Stacy Smith and Donna Ziller and that team in Hot Springs, over 1,000 teachers from around the state that came for the reading conference. You know, that's 300 more than we had last year. We could probably have put another 300 in there if we had the room. Last year we had round tables in the Hot Springs Convention Center. This time the round tables were gone and they were still completely packed out. And we had some really dynamic presenters that are at the forefront of the science of how we teach reading, and the excitement that this conference has generated, the excitement that we're seeing through the Rise Arkansas initiative is really, it's something that I think you're really going to see some results over the next few years. And just please take the opportunities that as they're available to you to pat the literacy team on the back and give them the praise that they deserve and help us with that. There's a lot of social media on that conference. As you see it, please push that out. And just, again, thanks Stacy and Donna and team for all that work.
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner. And speaking of conferences, I'd be remiss in not doing a shameless plug for my brother-in-law in the University of Arkansas, who at Euler this weekend, actually today through Saturday. So for those of you that may also be spending the night Friday, as we are, is hosting a robotics conference, and now extending to younger students through Legos. And my brother-in-law just sent me a photo of their very first Mexican team. We're appealing for folks all the way from Mexico. So he's asked me to come in and help interpret to this weekend, but I think that's again, and that's a local opportunity. I know we have a full day tomorrow, but some folks will be staying through Saturday, so if you have the opportunity and want to see our youth on the STEM field as well, Arkansas really is leading innovation at all levels of core areas of education, and that's something that's really exciting to see when you can be there in person. So I extend that invitation to anyone that'd like to join me on Saturday morning in judging some of these kiddos, although I don't know how I'm going to judge them except to say good job, but looking forward to it. So with that, if there's no further business before the board, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Dr. Barr, seconded by Ms. Zook. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you.
My cousin Joe Foley was